So hi and welcome back for joining us here at Rootshell Security's next episode of the Tech Talks. In this episode we're going to be talking about the vapor trail that we leave behind us when we're on the internet and how our actions can actually echo across the internet for eternity. The other topic today is quite a celebratory one, and this is the fact that Rootshell Security was 2 years old last week. And what an exciting couple of years it's been. Since 2019, we've established operations in both the UK and the US, building a team on both sides of the Atlantic. In October 2020, we launched the Prism platform, which was an amazing feat for our development team, who only started building the platform, in the April that year. So Prism is already helping multinational organisations improve their entire remediation processes. Now, no birthday, second birthday would go without a miss of a cake. So yes, I do get to blow out the candles, and oh yeah, it's chocolate. So the internet has a number of layers, if you like. The most common pictorial view of the internet is the iceberg, depicting the surface, the deep and the dark webs. The common or the surface web represents approximately around about 5%, where the deep and the dark web represent majority of around 95%. They're hidden parts of the internet. The top 5% of the internet is your common playground, if you like, your mainstream search engines, websites, places where you go shopping. The deep web is made up of academic and scientific information, gated access to subscriptions, financial records and government sort of resources. The dark web at the bottom here is typically only accessed or discovered with specialist software or applications that can navigate the dark areas of the internet. Things like Tor and special browsers, etc. There is a lot of information in the dark web, which I suppose it could be deemed as being quite unsavoury. So do proceed with caution and at your own risk if you do decide to visit the dark web. You'll also find things like marketplaces selling not so legal items potentially, and also items including things like your passwords and your personal information. Typically, access to your personal accounts, be it online banking, services, subscriptions, etc., are all controlled by authentication. Typically a username and then a secret, i.e. your password. It's become common knowledge and it's generally accepted now that this combination of a password and a username is no longer secure enough to protect your personal information. Multiple factor or two-factor authentication should always be used as a minimum where possible to protect your identity and authentication logins. To give you an example, by trawling and harvesting publicly available information, a threat actor could easily work out your username or your email address. 50% of the equation, right? Passwords can be obtained from lists, like we just mentioned, openly broadcast on the internet via paste sites or the deep and the dark web sort of marketplaces. A quick search with the right skills can place your username and password combination at the fingertips of a threat actor or an attacker in very little time. Okay, so let's break down some different types of authentication, basically proving who you are to the requesting service. You have a few ways to do this. Firstly, something you know. For example, your username and your password. It's in your memory. You know this. Next, something you are. Now, this could be biometrics, a fingerprint, an iris scan, for example, facial recognition. It's something that you are. Next thing, something you have with you. And this could be a token generating device. This could be both hardware or software based. Basically a one-time string of information with a short expiry life to be inputted along with the other methods to prove who you are. Now, knowing if you are already compromised is a great starting point. There are a number of resources on the internet that can provide you with that information. By simply inputting your email address or username into the app, it will perform lookups against its database for any evidence of compromise, for example. Just use your favourite search engine and search for something like, has my password been compromised, or something of that ilk, and you'll be provided with pages or a number of free websites which will tell you if or not you have been potentially compromised and when or where this compromise took place. If you have any concerns for your organisation and your staff, you can contact us here at Root Shell Security. We'll be more than happy to discuss that service. Password security is absolutely paramount as more and more of our lives are conducted on the internet. We need to leverage authentication services to gain access, each requiring a password. So let's ask the question, what potentially is a strong password? There's lots of different sort of answers that you'll get when you ask that question. Basically, it's something that's not easily guessable and it's not easily brute forced. With today's technology, brute forcing has become a bit of a problem. Okay, so what do we mean by not guessable? That's the first thing we put on the table. So for example, do not use personal information, like your date of birth or pet names, family information if you like. This information is always easily found and grabbed from places like social media. We all love to talk and spread the news about what's happening with our family. To give you an idea, an analogy, you might have a goldfish called Bertie, and you might have an Instagram account where you love to talk about Bertie on a regular occasion. And it might be that it's Bertie's birthday next week. It might be that you've actually devised a password which may be Bertie 2021. That wouldn't be a good idea now, would it? Totally coincidental, by the way, if you've got a goldfish named Bertie. And also, finally, don't use simple words or common dictionary words. Brute force lists are long and comprehensive. These passwords will be cracked very, very quickly. Okay, so let's talk about some common password creation mistakes here when picking, obviously, a password. Firstly, assuming that meeting the minimum password length requirement on a website or an application, for example, makes it safe. It don't. Just because it says a minimum of eight characters, 8 characters is not a target. It is the minimum, therefore you should be far exceeding it. Next, reusing a password on a different site because it's strong. Strong passwords only protect you if that particular platform isn't compromised and it is safe. If that password is then reused, then all the applications and services that you obviously utilise are accessible with that username and password combination. Next, avoid sequences of characters or numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or as we said before, Bertie 1, 2, 3. Yeah, common sense. Next, in environments where forced password changes, for example, or every 3 months you're forced to change your password, avoid password series or what we call incremental password changes. For example, going back to the Bertie analogy, if you may have used, God forbid, Bertie 1, 2, 3, don't go and use Bertie 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, so let's talk about some best practices now. So if multi-factor authentication or MFA or 2FA, two-factor authentication is available, totally use it. Leverage that technology, make sure you employ it on all your logging capabilities. Use passphrases longer than 15 characters. Remember, the 8 characters, minimum target, forget that. Move beyond that, go for 15 characters or more if you can do that. Next, never ever share your credentials. I'm sure this makes sense to everybody that you don't want to be giving your credentials out. This is personal to you. This is what provides evidence that you are who you say you are. Authenticating. So never ever share your credentials. You may also ask that, hold on a minute, Sean, you mentioned this word passphrase. Well, opposed to the word, password. Well, firstly, it's a password composed of a sentence or combination of characters and words, if you like. So we're actually substantially making it bigger by having a phrase rather than a word. Now the question is, how does a passphrase actually help? Well, it can help you memorise longer and more complex passphrases and phrases that often have more meaning to you. Maybe it's a verse from a song or a favourite sort of chant that you might like. So it's easier to remember. So that's all we've got time for in this particular episode, folks. So I'm going to love you and leave you right there. And I really appreciate you joining us. And I look forward to seeing you again when we go into the next episode. But I've got something I need to do right now. And that is to, chomp into that chocolate cake. So catch you next time. Bye.